Welcome to Choppin It Up, a podcast powered by Journey, where we talk about freight, how people got to where they are, and their career journeys, pun intended. All right, let's chop it up. Hello. Welcome to Choppin It Up. I'm your host, Will Jenkins, and today I'm with Mike Horvath, co-founder and COO at Revenova. Mike, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Will. Really appreciate it.
Of course, man. I always enjoy chopping it up with you. I've learned a lot from you over the years, man. So exciting to dig into your story and get to know a little bit more.
Yeah, thanks. Well, back at you. You were real helpful in our early years of getting our product in the right direction. So it was a mutually beneficial relationship, to say the least.
Beautiful, man. That's what we want to hear. So yeah. I've got your fun fact here. This is always what we start off with. Tell us what your fun fact is.
Well, I love playing guitar. I'm a musician. Used to have really long hair and played rock and roll for many years.
That's awesome.
Yep. Of course, it's still a hobby of mine. I still hit open mics every occasionally. I play with a couple of groups every once in a while when they need a fill-in bass player. Predominantly bass guitar, but I play guitar as well at open mic nights. And
yeah,
it's a great hobby. It was, at one point I was thinking maybe I could do this professionally, and
totally.
But now I'm a software guy.
Yeah, it's a little bit different, but still really creative.
Yeah, we've hired a lot of musicians at the company, quite honestly. I think, the idea of music, it's very mathematical. There's a lot of structure, but there's a lot of creativity. And I think that translates well. A lot of our software developers are musicians. And I think that's just a natural extension of kind of that mindset.
Yep.
Is structure plus creativity. And that's really kind of software, right, in general.
That's awesome, man. I grew up listening to my dad play. Him and his brothers were in a band as well. He plays electric guitar, and I picked it up a little bit, never really did, but that's a really, really cool fun fact. That's awesome.
Yep.
All right, so let's dig in here, man. I want to hear personal background type stuff. Give me like the early years of Mike. Where'd you grow up? What were you doing before college or before you got into the working world?
Sure. So I grew up on the far south suburban side of Chicago, in a town called, actually born in Oak Lawn, moved to Midlothian.
Nice.
So my father was a police officer. My mom worked at a law office, and for many, many years wanted to be an attorney. And the attorney said, "Kid, don't go into law. It's really crazy. Get into software. That's where all the action is." So I've always I took that to heart when I got to college. I went to Northern Illinois University. Go Huskies! We just
had a big week,
huge upset at Notre Dame. Got paid $1.5 million to come in and win. That was. I have a lot of friends that, and I'm an ND fan too, so it was a little bit torn. But I had to root for my Huskies, being my alma mater. So that was a great win for us, and a lot of fun to watch. Majored in marketing, and took a lot of computer science and math classes in that effort. So post college, got into the software world. Selling retail systems at NCR right out of college. So working with grocery stores and general retail places on basically a kind of a combination of hardware and software, Unix backends at the time, selling to retail systems with front end point of sale. And at that time, that's a long time ago. I won't give you the year. You can look it up on LinkedIn. But
it was a few years back.
Fun about that was you got to learn a lot about tech. And it was kind of a hybrid role, right? You had to kind of learn it, sell it, and at the time help implement it. So it was very much like, pretty much do everything. We had some tech folks that would support you out in the field, but really got me exposed to both hardware, software, operating systems, networking, the whole 9 yards on the tech side. And throughout the years, I've just kind of migrated through different tech companies, a lot of different roles. Went on to what the sales guys would call the dark side, went over to the support side for a while and got into the dark side. Certified as a network engineer, certified as a Solaris engineer, was building networks, building computers, help install them, and all the software that went on them. Moved my way through that. Ultimately went back to the sales side because I found very quickly that my knowledge of the tech was great, and I could do all these things, but I was helping sales guys make a tremendous amount of money. And I'm like, I should apply this maybe to myself. I went back to my boss at the time and said, hey, look, I'd like to get back onto the sales side of this. And I go, oh, here's my pitch. I don't need any help. I don't need a sales engineer. I don't need anything. I can go do this on my own.
Right.
And so, moved back onto that side and, really started moving up the ranks on the sales management and in general territorial management. Landed at a CRM company called Quintus Corporation. It's kind of, we wanted to be the Salesforce.com, of the industry.
Yeah.
It met with a bit of an untimely ending. You can look that one up on the internet. It was a very, very good company. Met some great people there, some tremendous mentors that helped me grow not only on the sales side, but on the management side. And we had a lot of fun there. And post that, started getting into kind of linked up with another mentor who's still a great friend today. So started working for him on the sales side, sales management side, and got into kind of the turnaround business for a while. So the CEO Jeff Dickerson, he was brought in by a number of investment firms to turn struggling software companies around, and he and I hit it off at a company, and we did some good work there. And he's like, hey, come along with me and let's do this with a couple of other companies. And that's where we met Jeff Parisi, by the way. Doing one of those. So Jeff. And that's how I met Jeff at a company called eCredit.
Okay.
And Jeff Dickerson was brought in as the CEO to turn it around. And Jeff was there, not to necessarily turn it around so much as to accelerate it. That company was doing pretty decently, but just needed to, the investors wanted to take it to the next level.
Yeah.
So I came in, met Jeff. Jeff's a great guy. We kind of restructured.
What year was this that you met Jeff?
I'd have to go back and look. It's 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's a long time ago. Yeah, it's probably about 20 years ago now. Because in that effort, we turned it around. We sold that company to Fidelity. And Jeff Dickerson, he's like, Mike, I think you got everything. I had some really interesting software ideas, and one was, we were doing credit at the time, and I was like, hey, I'd really like to do, the problem with checking credit for any salesperson is, the time it takes for the credit department to get back to you, to approve a deal, to approve the terms for your deal. And at the time, after my experience in the CRM world, I'm like, what would be a great idea is to put the credit check directly in the sales system, because that way, if you hit a button and automate the process, you could get a credit decision back to a salesperson instantaneously.
Yeah.
And that would make their process go. That software could, basically mimic what a good credit analyst would do and come back and say, yes, you can sell on terms. Here's the credit limit, or no, go get cash, whatever the terms are, whatever your business rules were, right? So he's like, that's a great idea, Mike. You should think about starting that. And so I went and talked to Dave Craigmile, who who's our current CTO at our time at Revenova now. And I said, Dave, I have this idea. I need, let's build a prototype. Let's see if this dog hunts. And we built that. And we really liked what we had. And this was, one-click credit check inside of Salesforce, credit monitoring inside of Salesforce. We wanted to be all cloud-based. We didn't want to, deal with infrastructure or any hardware. And we wanted to build a really efficient credit management app. And so then we're like, hey, this is a good idea. Some customers wanted it, and we wanted to fund it. And this is where I met Charles Craigmile, who's our co-founder at Revenova. So Dave, Charles, and I co-founded a company called Forseva. And Forceiva originally was Forceva, kind of playing off force, with Salesforce. But when we applied for Salesforce, they said, you can't use force in your name. You got to use something else. So we looked up, we changed the C to an S. And we found out in like a Hindu dialect or an Indian dialect that meant like delivery of excellent service, or like, because you always do like the international word check on any made up word, right? Because we were looking for a short syllable .com URL to start the company on. It didn't really mean anything. This would be our brand, kind of like Revenova, where it doesn't really mean anything, but it's just unique, and we could basically take the company where we want to go under that banner, right?
Right.
So with Forceiva, Dave, Charles, and I, and Jeff, because he was my guy at eCredit, we started that and grew that business over several years, got the top credit agencies in the country to resell that product, Equifax, Dun & Bradstreet, and Experian. And eventually Equifax acquired us. So
That's awesome.
we had a blast doing it, and we kind of looked around the room with each other, and what our we had a angel investor in that company, and he's like, boy, I really like you guys because you started a business, there was no founder drama, you kind of said what you wanted to build, you built it, the people you said might acquire you acquired it, and that was a lot of fun and no drama. What can we do next?
Yeah.
Right. So Charles is like, well, I used to run the brokerage group at Schneider Logistics. And he goes, I think we could do the same thing for transportation management that we did for credit management, which is let's bake it right in the CRM platform. And therefore, you can have this synergy between selling and marketing and servicing and transportation management all on the same platform, sharing the same data, and solve a lot of the problems that typically a brokerage would have. And our focus initially was brokerage, where you're trying to tie your sales and marketing systems to your TMS, and you got to synchronize a lot of data. And especially for smaller, brokerages and mid-sized brokerages, you might not have all the IT chops you need to do all that.
Right.
So if we could bring a TMS that could be deployed on top of the world's number one CRM product, and you had the choice of deploying those CRM modules along with our TMS, we could reduce the amount of integration required. We call it, innovate versus integrate. Focus on the innovation side of the business, not the integration side. It doesn't drive any value, right? But cool workflows between sales and customer service, or extending it out to your customer via the internet or whatever. Those things are much more valuable to the business, right? And so that's what we ended up doing. We started same approach we took at Forceiva. Let's go look at some customers, talk to them, see if this idea hunts. And the people were like, hey, love this idea. When can we get something? So we had some really good early customers who really helped us out. You guys were at Molo, were amongst some of our earlier customers, and we just work collaboratively with our customers since then, and still do, and have grown the company significantly since then to continuously improve the product, expand our modes. We first started very heavily on truckload, kind of the over the road, flatbed, bulk, whatever. And then moved to LTL. We're in drayage now. We've introduced a fleet module now for carriers. So we got to the asset side of the business at this point,
Right.
And doing really well. We it's newer for us, newer for the industry, but we're very excited about the opportunity there. We've hired some good industry experts from the carrier fleet side that have helped shape that, and worked with a number of our fleet hybrid companies that are doing both fleet and brokerage. And how does that all work together synergistically so you can run your fleet and your brokerage, common platform. So
Totally.
it's exciting.
That's awesome, man. There's a lot to unpack there. I want to go back to the original organization that y'all started that got acquired by Equifax. So you said you all changed it from Forceiva. What was the name that you had to change it to?
We changed it from Forceiva to Forseva. We just changed the C, F-O-R-C-E-V-A, to F-O-R-S-E-V-A.
Got it. Okay.
Because we liked the way that sounded. And when we looked up the F-O-R-S-E-V-A word, it said, it had some positive connotations in other languages. And so, it was a made-up word, basically, looking for a cool URL, with something that would be unique, that people would, no one has ever heard of Forceiva before. I will say, though, there was a couple of kids who had like a band. I mean, they were like 12 years old, called Forceiva. So when we did the Google search, they had like a little band, and it was these old videos. We were laughing. We're like, well, we probably aren't going to have any, conflict with them. They're not in our industry, so let's not worry about it. But there was nothing else out there at the time. So it was like, okay, this is good. If we get our brand out there and people Google it, they'll find us immediately. It won't be in the crowd of, thousands of names that sort of sound the same, right? So that's what we were looking for.
That makes a lot of sense. That name recognition is important. I think about that a lot as we figured out what to call Molo initially. We had a lot of names that didn't make sense, or not that they didn't make sense, they just didn't stand out. And Molo is its own word. You jam two words together, it's a little bit more recognizable, modern logistics. So I get that whole name recognition part.
It was a great turn. I do recall the original name, but I won't spoil it for you.
Yeah, not good.
But no, Molo was a great name. Still a great name. People talk about it, all the time when we're out in the industry and stuff. And obviously we see Andrew, and I know Matt and those guys are still doing a bunch of things in the industry. So
yeah,
it's a good crew there for sure.
Totally. I have a question about the growth of Forceiva and then the transition to go and run it back with the group. So what was the time frame from starting Forceiva to that first exit? How long did that take?
About 4 years.
Nice. That's awesome. And how did you assemble the group? I know you mentioned having met Jeff previously. Did you know Charles and Craig from had you known them already?
Yeah. So I knew Dave Craigmile. There was another startup that I went to in Chicago called Shop Talk. And Shop Talk was trying to think of like Groupon before the internet and the smartphone was pervasive. And so what Shop Talk was a marketing company that would basically dial up, you could have a automated dialing program that would call you, Will, and say, hey, Will, are you interested in a $10 off Jiffy Lube coupon? If so, say yes. And if you are, give me your email address. Just say it into the phone and I'll read it back to you. And then we'll send you the coupon via email. So very much like Groupon, but before there was a smartphone and you could do all those things on there, it was all audio, right? So it was all this, so Shop Talk, right? Talk to shop.
Yeah.
You can do these things. We had, and it was, the company was trying to launch that product, and it was in a transitionary time when, smartphones started to become available, and would this really be the right thing? But Dave Craigmile was the CTO there, and actually a number of guys who work at our company today in Revenova, we brought over because it was a really, really good development team. And we built a really good technology for building voice XML applications, so internet-delivered voice IVR applications. And so the investors came in and they're like, hey, not sure the marketing play is a good one, but, this might be a good tech solution. So, I was in Chicago and I was looking around, and this is after Quintus Corporation was acquired by Avaya, so that CRM company that I worked for, we were doing great. They had all kinds of stuff going on, and Avaya acquired us. And they were, Shop Talk was looking for someone with my experience, selling software into that space. And so came in and we were starting to run the company, and we were doing some things. And this is a good learning lesson, is the investors were marketing investors, and they weren't software company investors in that company. And we were working a deal, and we got some things going, and we were getting some distribution agreements going, but the investors really didn't want to wait any longer. So they pulled the plug on the company.
Oh, man.
We just one day walked in, and there's like, hey, we're shutting it down. So Dave and I kind of looked at each other and like, okay, what do we do now? And I'm like,
right.
This is when I went back to my mentors and, did some work with some of the mentors that I'd had before. I'm like, hey, I'm on the street right now. What can you do for me? And so did some work and started coming up with this idea for Forceiva, going, hey, you know what? I think I know some good tech folks. This team that I had at Shop Talk, they're on the street now, and they started getting some jobs, and we started to do some. Those guys started to do some independent work. Actually, Dave and a couple of the guys, there was a company that Bo Jackson was an investor in called Case Knowledge, and because Bo's one of his best friends was an attorney, and Dave hooked up with those guys and was building some stuff, prototypes for them for a while. And then we got back together. I called Dave after I was coming out of eCredit and saying, I really like to do this credit thing, and you're the tech guy I'd like to do it with because, I know your capabilities and I know the people And we had a good run. Like we were having a lot of fun at Shop Talk. And we were working really hard. Just didn't get that company over the hump. So I said, let's try this again. And so that's how I met Dave. And that's when we were like, okay, how do we raise some money? And he's like, hey, my brother knows a really good local angel investor. Let's talk to him about the investment. And that's when Charles and I met. And Charles is like, I like this idea of the credit thing. I had this problem in my brokerage. Like we had, there was delays. I like this idea. And, I'd like to get into a startup like that. And so, Charles has a really good business experience, operational experience. I'm more of a sales and marketing kind of tech idea guy. And Dave is a technical executor, right?
Yeah.
He can build things. So the skill sets were very complementary, and we knew enough about each other's domains where we could challenge each other, but we kind of stayed out of each other's sandboxes. Like, if this is your area, you kind of make the final call. And it's worked really well for us. We did that company for 4 years. We never had any internal strife,
Yeah.
I mean, like our investor said, like he goes, "Lad, I had so much fun doing this with you guys," because we meet with them once, regularly, and he's like, "How's it going? Where are you at on the business plan?" We're giving him all the numbers, and he's like, I constantly hear about, I fund these companies, and then the founders come back and they're like, I'm quitting. I hate that guy. We got a big argument, or we decided to change our business model 180 degrees, and we're no longer selling, cups. We're selling picture frames, And it's like, right. We had a mission. We saw the opportunity. The first one with Forceiva came because I just saw how it was always working with our credit product, and how we were always constantly working with salespeople, and how those two systems were just invariably never connected. The whole process was disconnected. You're like, hey, you put these two together and make it fast for the salespeople and do it with the rules of the credit people. That's a winner. That saves a lot of time, money, effort, energy, because there's never enough credit people to cover large sales forces. And you want to do things right financially for the business. And then our system would also monitor that. We ultimately moved into collections management as well. So we were around the whole credit risk thing. We were doing it. And we had the resellers. So it'd be fun. It was fun because there was deals where we were selling direct. Equifax would show up with the product rebranded under the Equifax label in the same opportunity. Dun & Bradstreet would show up in the same opportunity with the same product, just branded under their thing, and Experian ultimately. So at what point we're like, okay, that's 100% on the forecast, because it's down to us versus us with another name, and us versus another name.
Yeah.
Who's going to win, right?
That's amazing.
Yeah. So ultimately Equifax said, hey, I want to own this whole thing. And they're doing really well with it today. It's called Business Connect. It's up on the App Exchange. And
nice.
They've expanded it. Some of the people, many of the people that, were with the company way back then, 10 years ago, are still there, working in that division. So it was very successful. It was a great fit for us. The folks at Equifax are fantastic. Same with D&B and Experian. We had great relationships with all three. And, it was a lot of fun to do that. That's why we wanted to do another one. And we're having a great time here at Revenova now too, because it's kind of the same thing. We had a mission. We're just executing on the plan. It's a much broader industry. It's a much bigger industry. There's so many different places to go. So part of the challenge is always, stay focused, stay disciplined, don't chase shiny objects. Just stay the course.
Easier said than done now. Easier said than done. Yeah.
It is. Well, the bigger you get, the more people are pulling you in different directions, right? So we have. Now the good news is, a couple of years ago, Viking Global, purchased Revenova and put a lot of money on our balance sheet because they really liked what we were doing, and they wanted us to do it bigger, faster. And so we were able to expand the headcount in our company tremendously, and invest in things that we didn't have the funds for when we were bootstrapping and trying to. We were running the company profitably, like we did with Forseva. And it's always funny when you talk to investors and they're like, why are you guys running this thing profitably? Well, we, kind of want to stay in business,
Right. Yeah.
I don't know what they taught you at Harvard, but at Northern Illinois, they taught us you should run a company profitably.
Yes.
And we didn't want to go back, keep going back out to the markets and doing that kind of stuff. It just wasn't the way we wanted to run the company. So we wanted to grow it organically. We wanted to self-fund it, after our initial investments. And it was doing, quite well. But the Viking folks were great because they understood what we wanted to do. A lot of the investment companies that we talked to, and all kinds of different types of investors and even potential acquirers that were talking to us for a while, Viking was the best fit for us because they totally got it. They're like, we understand what you want to do. Here's how we can help you get to where you guys want to go. We're not going to come in and disrupt the whole thing or trying to do something that was like a Rube Goldberg machine, put our stuff together with a bunch of other disparate techs and try to build something, as a conglomerate. We just want you guys to continue what you're doing and do it faster, do it better. And so that's been fun, right?
Yeah, of course.
Because you got that kind of horsepower now underneath the company.
Question for you. Let's go back to the beginning of building Revenova. So you all had a successful exit, and then previously you were part of another organization that was acquired. So you had seen it, then you did it as a group again with a really strong, very complementary set of founders that had different skill sets to be able to build upon. And you say, okay, Charles had experience on the brokerage side. You all had someone that could build something else inside of this tech ecosystem in Salesforce. Let's go attack the TMS space.
Yep.
Why TMS? And the reason I ask is crowded space, lot of incumbency, tons of legacy systems, things of that nature. What made you all think, man, we could build something that people are going to buy?
Yeah, I think it boiled down to really two things. Charles's experience, where he was like, hey, my TMS, it wasn't connected with my CRM and marketing and all of that. So the experience we had at Forceiva of like putting a business function directly on the CRM platform kind of gave us the catalyst to say, well, what other business function can we put on the CRM platform that's not already part of a CRM suite, but would be highly complementary. And we chose that really behind Charles's idea at that point. The concept originally was kind of mine, where it was credit on CRM. Charles was like, well, hey, why not TMS on CRM? I had a bunch of issues, like disparate TMSs even. His whole concept was, well, I had a truckload TMS and an LTL TMS, and I did something else for freight forwarding, and that's just crazy enough. And then I had to hook all that stuff into my sales environment and quoting, and it's just all over the place, and it was really expensive and hard to maintain. He's like, there's an opportunity here. If we did multimodal design, start with truckload, but multimodal architecturally underneath the hoods. And so we went out and basically tested that with a few potential customers who, Charles knew from the industry. And it's like, yeah, I like this idea a lot, So I'm like, hey, you know what? I don't know anything about TMS, but I know software and I know the value props. And I'm like, at the time, I know a lot now, but back then it was like, I know the CRM space. I know the value of integrated solutions. Salesforce is a very great partner, of course, for us. They knew us very well after that success, because what was really cool about the Forseva exit was I did a speaking engagement at Dreamforce for them, because we were one of their first ISVs who built like a serious business app, not just a component or a little, press this button and it sends an email or something. It was like, hey, a whole credit management application to automate a whole other department in an enterprise. And when we exited the company, we had 8 employees.
Love that.
So we did it all with 8 people. And that was lots of fun, because it was a very successful business, and it helped them. Like there was a room full of about 100 potential ISV partners sitting there at Dreamforce going, why should you build a more serious app on Salesforce? And we're like, hey, here's a guy who did it, just sold his company. And, let me tell you about that. And they said, don't tell him how many people you had until the very end. Yeah. And because people were asking all this, and I'm like, and they're like, then they asked, Salesforce folks asked the question like, hey, and tell them how many people you had when you exited. And I'm like, 8. That's incredied. It's like, they're like, what? You did all that? Yeah. I'm like, well, we had a great reseller channel, right? So we had Jeff did a great job of building out our sales channel. It was really just Jeff out there selling along with our partners, and we had our tech team, and it was easy to support, and it was all cloud based. We needed no infrastructure, so we were able to really get going quick and sell into big companies because of the security and all the things that Salesforce platform offers that we didn't have to build. Right.
That's awesome. What year was the exit at Forceiva?
2014-ish. Yeah, 2013, 2014.
Awesome. And then when did y'all start Revenova?
Like right after. Took about 3 months off and started, took the summer off.
I love it.
And then we stayed on for a while at Equifax to transition and do the different things and see how the roles might, how it might all fit. And then, we had this, Charles kind of had this idea, and we're like, it's not a bad idea. Let's try this again. We were feeling pretty good about the first company, and we're like, this is worth giving it a try. And to your point, we're like, there's a lot of TMSs out there, but at the time we were looking around, and it was like, not really many true cloud-based TMSs, 10 years ago, right?
There were not.
This is kind of innovative, because you had the traditional players everybody knows, and they were mostly on-premise software solutions.
You say cloud-based TMS 10 years ago, people are like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. And people, but there were people that really said, we're solving when we talked about it 10 years ago, we're like, look, that you can get access to it anywhere. So imagine your carrier partners getting access to it, or your customers getting access to it, or your employees working at home. Like you can do whatever you want. It's cloud-based. You can have employees all across the globe all sharing the same information. You don't have to set up that infrastructure, right? And you think, like a lot of times the logistics companies that we were talking to, had a pretty diverse set of offices and, big carrier networks that they were working with. And you're like, the potential here is huge. And I'll tell you what, it really kicked in is COVID.
Oh, yeah.
We had a couple customers that came on in December, before the whole outbreak. And they're like, boy, if we didn't switch our old system, we'd be out of business. Our tech our tech would not have held up for an at-home remote workforce that, everybody was moving towards, right? Because offices were being closed and the like. So it was an interesting period of time when that whole thing hit, because being cloud-based, really started to mean something. There was, real business reasons why you needed to have every bit of functionality that you offered in the office available to somebody at home, right? Because
totally.
a lot of apps have like web extensions. You can do this, you can do that, you can do this, you can do that, but you can't do everything. And ours was like, you do everything anywhere as long as you have the security profile and a secure internet connection to get in.
Yeah. I mean, I remember being able to use Revenova on my cell on the weekends all the time, and how incredibly helpful that was early on. Grab some information, look at a PO, get a driver number or something like that. But being able to do it at the drop of a hat and like not have to run to my computer. Before that, I'd never had that. I didn't realize how important or helpful it was. So this is extremely convenient.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
That's the beauty of the platform, right? We continuously evolve that stuff. We've put out a lot of enhancements in the last couple of years, since the acquisition and the growth of the company. Our engineering team is, much, much larger. We have a huge staff of professional services developers too, that help our customers do unique things that they want to build, that we help them build on top of the platform. And so there's a lot of really cool things that our team has been up to. And we launched, real-time rating engine.
Let's go.
Consortium. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so we call the big buzz right now, right, is AI, right? And we're doing things on it with the AI front as well, because there's some really good use cases for it. But one thing about rating, especially in spot market, is it'd be great to know like what 50 carriers quoted a lane right now, right, in the last 15 minutes. Think of a stock trade, right? Yep. So the industry, most of the pricing engines out there, it's looking at historical data. And then they'll maybe apply some like AI concept to it and say, based on the historical data and trends and this and that, and, today's rate ought to look like X, right? But, if you're sitting on the brokerage seat, it would be great to know, hey, what are carriers quoting this lane right now in the last 30 minutes or the last 2 hours? And that's what our Lane IQ Network product is doing now, is all of our participating companies that participate in Lane IQ Network, all the spot quotes that come in immediately go into the network, anonymized. And so
that's awesome.
You can watch a lane move like a stock market moves, in real time, see what the carriers are doing. Is it trending up? Is it trending down? And it's everybody quoting those lanes today. So we kind of say, hey, there's nothing artificial about it. It's the real deal, right?
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool. And then you can take AI and apply it to that data, because we keep it historically, so you can use AI to, do other kinds of predictive things with the data. But from what's the market look like right now on this lane, that's what this infrastructure does. And it's really cool, really excited about it.
That's awesome, man. So I want to go back to the early days, because you all have built an incredible product, have been able to, again, have a successful exit, get another partner that wants to 10x the org and take it to a place that, you all would be able to do if you had the capital that they were able to bring in. And so very advanced, but let's talk early days before things got big and there were a bunch of people that knew who Revenova is. Y'all are a household name now. Let's talk first year or two, 2015, 2016. What was it like trying to bring this this product to market and convince the first couple of paying customers? That's always a hurdle to get over. What was that like?
Yeah, it sure is. And the good news is, there was no magic to it. We knocked on doors. We started with, truckload brokerage, because that's, we put the prep, I guess, the first year was really building the product with people that were using another product and weren't going to be using this product for a year, right? So we were sitting side by side with, a few customers that said, hey, once this is ready to go, and I'll help you build it. Once it's ready to go for me, I'll deploy it, right?
Yep.
So some early customers. And, we didn't do any marketing. We didn't do anything except build the product, with a few customers that said they would use it once we were ready to go on the truckload brokerage side. And so that's what the first year and a half really looked like. And then small group, and we said, okay, when we're ready to do full truckload brokerage, we got our customers, we got them live, we got them happy. And then we said, okay, now that we got 3 live customers, now we can start marketing it. Now we can go to the market and say, yes, the dog hunts. These guys use it. You can talk to them. They'll be willing to talk to you. We gave them good deals, of course, because they're early adopters. And, but we were looking for people that were willing to collaborate with us. And I think that's how it always should. I think that's, my advice for anybody starting a company is don't spend a dime on marketing until you're ready to market. You're a software
Agreed.
company, you build the product, you get your hands dirty, you really get in there, you figure out what the value props are, you do all those things, you build that success, and then you launch. So, that's how the first couple of years really were. It's very, shoestring, kind of approach, highly collaborative, just every day talking to these folks who were working with us. And here's the new stuff that we have. We probably had 30 releases in the first year.
Yeah.
Here's what we have a week later. Here's all the stuff we just talked about. 2 weeks later,
Right.
Here's all the stuff we just talked about. Here's all, what do you think of that? This highly back and forth process. And
I think there's a lot of maturity that it takes to sit down in a room with the group, start building the initial product, be incognito to an extent, get feedback from people. It's a little scary, right? You're like putting your neck out there. You want to see what people think about it, but you're investing this time to then launch properly because you don't want to build stuff that people won't pay for. And there's a lot of people, unfortunately, that sometimes do it backwards. They build things anticipating that that's what the clients are going to want. And so you spend a lot of money that you don't necessarily need to.
Yeah, you can't let the cart drive the horse. I mean, the technology looking for a business problem is, bad. You need to solve people's business problems with tech. And we see it a lot. We get a lot of requests for partnerships and stuff. And, our questions are always, who wants it? And why do they want it integrated with our TMS? Just because we made mistakes early on where, hey, that looks really cool. It sounds cool. We'll build that integration. And then nobody bought it because there was not enough business value in the other product to, warrant purchasing it, nonetheless trying to integrate it. So,
right.
We have a process now in our partnership program for us to build integrations, for partners to build the integrations directly with our APIs. So we've introduced a bunch of things there, and that's really cool. So, you can either get it from us or you can get it from the partner network in terms of integrations. But they're always customer driven. Now, any integration we do today is, has to have at least one customer sponsor for it.
Yeah.
Just because there's a lot of options out there and a lot of things pop up and then disappear too. There's always, when you go to the TIA shows, right? What's the hot topic this year? For a while it was blockchain, then it was capacity, then it was pricing and, AI.
Yeah.
And, those things tend to get spiked and then they kind of get back into like the reality zone of, how are we going to use these things and which ones are we going to use? So, it's very customer driven for us. And it always has been. Forceiva was the same way, it was like, hey, what do the customers want? Let's get a process in place to capture what they're looking for, prioritize those things, knowing that you can't do everything for everybody, every release, right?
Right.
So you do you've got to prioritize things and build the things that make the most sense for either a given set of customers or a given customer, depending on the relationships that you have. But, we try to make that, we balance that. We have a scoring model now and do a lot of different things to try to, feed everybody something that can help them advance their business, every release.
Totally. I mean, sometimes you have to slow down to speed up. It can be really, really easy to be enticed by all the options or all the opportunities, but you can't do everything at once. You can't be everything to everybody. You need to execute, figure out what's most valuable, execute that, and go back. And sometimes that means things take a little bit longer, but they end up getting done properly.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it earlier, right? Trying to stay focused. I mean, and roll it out in a way that makes sense for the business. Early on we had people, hey, ocean freight forwarding, help me do this. We're like, you know what? We're just not there yet because we don't
Yeah.
feel good about our truckload brokerage product enough to go out and chase freight forwarding. We're going to chase it next year,
Right.
Because we've got, we moved our way into drayage and we can track containers anywhere now. So we have that capability. Now it's a great launching step, and we're going to really actually we've got intermodal things on the roadmap that are going to hit in early 2025,
Nice.
and then that sets the tone to go the other way, right? So when you got a really solid intermodal solution, we're working with several intermodal customers to enhance what we do. We can do intermodal today. There's just 3 or 4 things that folks have wanted that would really make it a very solid intermodal product. And with drayage and intermodal, with that and what we do with truckload and LTL, now adding the international freight forwarding side of it, container moves and maybe even air freight forwarding, probably if we do that, is complementary to all of that. And then all these things are just leveraged, to the next mode. So
totally.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about year 2 through 5 or so. So 2017 through 2022. 2021, 2022. So we became a partner of yours in July of 2017. I remember sitting in the old office downtown in the Loop.
Yeah.
You all giving us a crash course on how to tender and build loads and stuff. And then you patted us on the shoulder, said, all right, go do your thing, right? You guys are ready to go. But the product has developed tremendously since that point. And so I was able to see that firsthand, being involved and going back and forth with y'all about some of what you were building. But when you think about the leaps and bounds to go from early stage startup to business that gets the attention of, is it Titan? Is that who you mentioned as the main, as the
Viking
new
Global?
Oh, Viking. I'm sorry,
Yep.
Viking Global. To get their attention, what was that process like? How did you all grow to the point where a company like Viking Global goes, "Yep, we're ready to acquire this to help it go to the next stage"?
Yeah, I think it's just really execution, right? Focus on the customer's success. So, we knew that if we could, every customer that we talk to and here's what we can do today, here's what we're capable of doing. We'll work with you to do more things, and so this whole idea of just engaging the customers, being as straightforward as possible. Like, hey, if we don't do it, we don't do it. We don't do it now, or here's a workaround now. But here's how we can get there. Let's work together to get you there. I know we had a lot of those sessions like, hey, I'd like to see it do this, like to see it do that. We draw it up on a board, come back, say, hey, we can do it this way, or it'll take us some time to do that, or that's impossible, or whatever the is, here's an alternative. But I think we did a really good job of working with our customers to evolve the product, and we stayed, in the swim lanes we knew we wanted to stay in, as far as truckload brokerage and ultimately LTL brokerage and LTL. And for shippers, I mean, basically the difference between brokering and shipper use of a TMS is pretty minimal. It's usually the integrations, the functionality is
Right.
very much the same. And so, working with companies like that, and we were very fortunate, I think people liked where we were going. Customers like, hey, this is innovative. This is cloud-based. I think cloud is the future and not many cloud options. And especially after the year 2 and 3, and we were able to really get, a very credible product in that space at that point. We had a lot of integration partners in play at that time, with all the big players. So we were getting, a lot of attention from them as well. And it just started to snowball on itself. Right. And, but I don't think we haven't lost that. Hey, let's stay with the customer and learn and listen. We spun up a whole customer success group now, but back then it was me and Dave and Jeff.
Oh yeah.
Coming out to your place, meeting. Let's have a meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, now these things are in. What can we do next? What else is on your mind? After you use it for a while, and it's those are the great fun memories of Revenova early days. Is just sitting down with customers, the folks like yourself, and saying, okay, here's what we got today. How can we help you get your job done better? What do you need? Going back, trying to put those specs together and coming back and saying, here's what we're thinking. And, people say, yeah, that sounds good. Doing it, watching it roll into a customer, people like, yeah, that's cool. And no product's ever perfect. Ours isn't perfect either.
Yeah.
I mean, we still got work to do. But the thing that I've always enjoyed, with both companies, really two things is the employees that we have and giving them a good work environment. So they, giving them a fulfilling job and just having a company where you have a whole bunch of people that are making a decent living, good living. Working, starting from zero and getting, building that up. That's always very rewarding personally to just help people get work and, advance their careers in the industry and try to be a mentor. Like I had great mentors, try to do the same thing, pay it forward. And then the customers, watching our customers be successful, and those two are, really on the same plane for me. It's like our employees, keeping them happy, career pathing, doing those things. And then our customers being successful, using the platform and our TMS on top of the platform and all the other ecosystem things you can do, or all the things you can do yourself, because of the platform's capabilities that allow you to do that. And it's fun to watch that happen and go, wow, that company is a $500 million, $500 million company, and they're using our product, to get there. And we've had many startups, that like you guys, 4 people in our office on a Wednesday going, hey, we want to start a brokerage. We we heard a lot of your good things about Revenova. How fast can you get me up? Well, when you're starting from scratch, you remember that, when we guys were in the office, like, I don't know, you signed on a Tuesday. I think we trained you like on a Thursday, Friday. You guys were up on Monday. Yeah. Because, no data to convert, just go, right? And we still do that. We have guys who spin out and want to start up a brokerage, and we're like, they have big plans to grow, and we're watching a few of those. Hopefully they'll be the next Molo. To grow their business like you guys did. I mean, you guys are a great success story, right? I mean,
dude, there's a ton of benefit of having an engaged technology partner, especially a TMS partner. It's the brain of the organization, and you need to have people on the other side that are agile and willing to take feedback and are attentive and whatnot. And if you'd like to build a business quickly, you need to be able to move. Like, you got to be able to get things going, make decisions. And so that was certainly a benefit for us. Being able to work with a partner like y'all helped tremendously.
Yeah. Well, like I said, back at you. You guys are a lot of fun to work with.
Yeah, we had a blast, man. It was always a good time. Question for you in terms of things that you would look back at. Obviously there's a ton more for you guys to go continue to build and develop. But looking back at what you all have done and what's worked, anything that you would tell other transportation tech organizations, or maybe an earlier version of yourself, hey, make sure you stay focused on this, that was key to success?
Yeah, I think the key, and we've kind of talked about it, I think the key is stay focused on what your mission is, listen to your customer, and just let that be your guidepost, and one of the things, and one of the great reasons why, I like working with the folks that I do, and this is a big thing for us, is, you gotta work with people that are ethical. I've seen lots of companies do crazy stuff. I think we're, really good about just trying to be a straight arrow, communicate things, be open and transparent and collaborative, and build those relationships. Quintus was a company I talked about earlier, a CRM company that had an untimely end due to an unethical executive team. And, actually a member of the executive team. You can look them up if you want. It's a terrible story. It was a great company, went public. Yeah. And, a couple quarters after going public, our company was, sold on the scrap heap a year later to Avaya. But that was a great learning lesson for me personally, which is, at the end of the day, you got to work with people you like to work with, people that are ethical, people that tell the truth, whether it's good or bad. Bad news never gets better with age, and just work with people collaboratively. And I think you have a company, when you take that approach, I think you'll be successful in whatever you do. And at the end of the day, and then it's about executing, doing the work. We put in lots of hours early on. I mean, 12, 14, 16-hour days, weekends, constantly working to get the company launched, because we saw the opportunity, but it was also like, you get to a point where there's way more work to do than you have time to do it. So you either don't do it or you spend more time trying to get it done. And, I think that's the one message for any startup is, be prepared to work really hard, long hours. Man. Unless you're going in with wicked funding and you can build a giant team. But if you're doing it like we did it, which was more or less bootstrapped, with one investor who helped us a bit, quite a bit, but it was a lot of work, but a lot of fun.
Those are really key lessons. I mean, being able to stay focused, listen to your customers, stay on task for the mission, for the business, be ethical, be a good person, do what you say you're going to do, like keep that arrow straight, stay on top of that. And then also knowing that it's going to be a lot of work. I think sometimes people see your chapter 10 or chapter 15, and they don't see what was going on chapter 1, chapter 2, when it was not as breezy as it is. And that's just the name of the game. Like, you got to be willing to roll your sleeves up and do the work. Yeah. And you all certainly did that to get to where you are. So I got a lot of respect for the team.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it was, again, a lot of fun at the same time.
Yeah. As we get ready to close here, I typically love to ask people what their favorite book is. You got a favorite book, one that you really like?
I've read a lot of books, Will. One I read a few years ago, which was a good book to read because my dad was a World War II pilot, was Unbroken.
Nice.
By Laura Hildebrand. They made a movie out of it. The book's infinitely better than the movie, although the movie's pretty good, but misses a whole version of Louis Zamperini that they don't really cover very well in the movie, but is covered very well in the book post-war.
That's awesome.
It's a good book. Yeah, I'd highly recommend it.
Done deal. I got to check it out. As we get ready to wrap up here, anything on the horizon for you and the Revenova team that we should be on the lookout for?
Well, we're launching. We launched our Fleet 2.0 product. So that's. I think you'll see a lot of stuff from us on the fleet side as it complements our brokerage side. That's really the big thing right now. That our Lane IQ network, as I mentioned earlier, which we just launched last quarter, it's getting a lot of traction. It's right now, it's just for our customers, so it's not a publicly, it never will be a public. Most likely, I should say never. Never is never a good word to use, but the intent is it's our ecosystem, for our ecosystem of users, for them to anonymize and share that data on rating. So yeah, I mean, you'll see us move into the forwarding space next year at some point. So we've got a number of customers that are using a product I won't talk about, but it's a very popular product in the forwarding space who would like to run everything in their business on the Salesforce Cloud with Revenova, TMS modules. So that's another one of those collaborative efforts with some companies that are doing forwarding that want to work with us to build that out, and it kind of it really overcome the gaps in the current solution set that they have and have more synergy with the other modes of business. Because as you know, it's all tied together, right? You're moving something from China to the U.S. It's got to get here. It's got to move somewhere else. You might deconsolidate everything, do all these different things. So, transportation and logistics, they obviously go hand in hand, and there's a lot that to get something from here to there globally. There's a lot of different modes and a lot of different things. And if you can do it all in a single system, it would just make more sense if you could do it. So that, it's been our big picture, goal since day one. We're just marching our way towards building out those modules and continuing to advance all the ones that we already have. So we have, dedicated teams now to each kind of mode, if you will. For mode, make sure we're advancing the ball on every mode that we do, every release cycle.
Totally. Well, congrats on the success. Really, really cool to be a partner with y'all for some years and just see you all develop and get to know you and the rest of the team. Really, really, really proud of what y'all built. I know it's going to be bigger and better year after year, and there's more for y'all. For anyone that wants to get in touch with Mike or the team, Mike, what's the best way to reach out to you? LinkedIn, email, where can they find you?
Yeah, LinkedIn's would be great. You can, my email, mhorvath@revenova.com. So first name, last initial, that's pretty much for everybody in the company. We got, general email boxes as well. Sales, go to our website, just fill out the contact form. However you want to get a hold of us, we're pretty reachable. We even have a phone still.
Love it. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you taking some time today, Mike. Great to chat it up, and I hope you have a great rest of your week and weekend.